Welcome in to the New Orleans Pelicans Podcast, the official podcast of your New Orleans Pelicans. A podcast dedicated to everything you need to know about the squad. Hear from players, coaches, broadcasters, and those who cover the NBA on a daily basis. It's time to flock up. The New Orleans Pelicans Podcast starts right now.
Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to the New Orleans Pelicans Podcast, official podcast of your New Orleans Pelicans. We continue with our player profiles that we're doing now that the regular season is over with. We've gone through the starters and started on some of the key reserves, as Jim Eichenhofer, Pelicans.com, is with us once again. Jim, as we go through all these players, every player has had to deal with something. Every player has had a significance, one way, shape, or form to this team and their effect on it. When I look at Bruce Brown, he's somebody that comes in, obviously, after the start of the season as part of the Brandon Ingram trade. What was the vision? What was the fit, I guess, for him to come in?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's one of those guys that kind of fills in the gaps. He's one of those players where I think he's kind of a jack of all trades. He's not a great scorer. He's not like an amazing rebounder. He's definitely has a reputation as being an above average, really good defensive player. He's a good passer. He's been a good playmaker. You put him in that kind of that Draymond Green role where he can kind of take advantage of 3-on-2s when other guys get doubled, 2-on-1s in half-court offense. So he's just somebody that is, maybe not great at anything, but really good at a lot of different things. So he's been a useful player, especially in his previous stops with Denver and Brooklyn.
No doubt. And you speak about Denver. Look, this is a veteran player that's been a key part of either winning playoff games or championships and such. And when you look at what's going to happen this offseason with this team, obviously we have new leadership. Joe Dumars coming in. And we have some players that are either under contract, not under contract. You have draft picks to come, all that. How does Bruce Brown sort of fit into that?
Yeah, I mean, there aren't that many guys that are not under contract, especially among the players that we're profiling in this series. There's only 3 guys among the 14 that are not under a deal with the Pelicans for next season. But yeah, Bruce Brown is going to be a free agent, and so it's interesting because he at this very early juncture in the offseason, he's already been at a Denver playoff game. He was there in 2023 when they won a championship, and it's not accurate to just say, oh, he was there. I mean, he was a huge part of that team. He averaged double-figure points. He had some huge games in the NBA Finals against Miami that year. But he was at Game 2 of the Nuggets first-round series against the Clippers last week, and actually did an interview on Nuggets TV and talked to them about how, I'm quoting here. He said, I miss playing here. He talked about how, he would really look forward to a reunion with the Nuggets and re-signing with them. Although he also mentioned that you don't know what's going to happen in free agency, and obviously I think it would be illegal for, under the terms of the contract or the CBA, for the Nuggets to even express interest in signing him until July when free agency opens. But yeah, I mean, he definitely had. It sounded like a guy who, he got paid really well to leave Denver, and he kind of had to take that contract. He was offered, I think it was like 2 years, $46 million for a guy who had never made even close to that kind of money. So in the summer of 2023, he comes off of winning a championship with Denver. They're at the championship parade. Michael Malone says, we want to bring Brucey B back. We want to make sure that he's here forever. And I think Bruce Brown at that time said, yeah, I'm all in on that. But then it was like everybody knew that when free agency opened, he was going to get a big contract offer. And he probably, if all things were equal, he probably would have stayed in Denver. I mean, there was no reason for him to leave other than financial reasons. So he's had 2 years now where he's been on 3 different teams and been traded a couple times. And it hasn't, obviously the team success hasn't been there for him, but even the individual success, he's had some injuries. So to make a long story short, it sounds like he's, that's already the way he's leaning, even though the season just ended a couple weeks ago.
I'll tell you, one of the things that'll be interesting to see is what happens in the offseason, because Denver, Jim, has a decision to make too, right? Don't they need to get a head coach?
Yes, they do, and a GM as well. Don't forget that.
Right,
yeah,
so.
yeah. I mean, and it's not breaking news. I mean, we'll see how the playoffs turn out for them. Right now, they're in good position, at least in the first round against the Clippers, up 3-2. But I mean, I don't think it's a secret too that they need to add depth. So I mean, they're going to have a bunch of important roster decisions as well, and I'm sure they're also looking at. They have a bunch of guys under big money. They're looking to fill in some spots with some maybe more kind of what you might call affordable options.
Yeah, you said big money. One of the big men as part of our broadcast team is Mr. Wes Johnson. He's going to join us here to talk a little bit about Bruce Brown and, more importantly, little summer fun he's going to be doing there, Jim. I don't know, he's part of the big three. Can we start like a small three? 6 foot and under.
That sounds kind of demeaning. I don't know. We might have to work on the name small three.
Yeah, those small three. I don't know what kind of ratings we would get.
The vertically challenged three, maybe?
Yeah, I like that. There's people that want to tune in to see them play. I don't know how many people want to see.
No, I don't think we'd
6 foot and under basketball 3-on-3.
We wouldn't get much of an audience for that.
Sure.
Maybe for the blooper reel.
Here's Wes Johnson, our conversation on Bruce Brown. Mr. Wes Johnson, analyst for the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network, who had an interesting year this year because look, it didn't go the way you would have liked it, obviously, right? No postseason, not the win totals that you did. That said, you kind of find out in the fire, in the crucible, whatever different phrase you want to use, right, who's who, and some people rise, right? And you get opportunities and stuff. So we're going to talk a little bit about that with one player in Brandon Boston, but we're going to talk about Bruce Brown, a guy that came in later in the season in the Brandon Ingram trade. We all know and love him with the cowboy hat, and his attitude and all that, but what was his addition to this team here? Because it didn't go immediately the way he would have liked it.
Exactly.
But towards the end of the season, we saw why maybe teams covered a guy like him. Just your overall thoughts. We'll get into specifics with him, but just overall thoughts about Bruce Brown.
When he came in, I thought he was trying to fit in, and rightfully so. But as you saw later on towards the game start piling up for him, you saw the player. You saw him be able to be like a Swiss Army knife, be able to play point guard, be able to guard 1 through 5, being able to score, being able to play in the pocket. So seeing him grow throughout the season, that was something that for me was like, this is why you had success throughout your career on numerous teams, on teams that were making playoff pushes, and they were able to put you on the floor and just be a player. You didn't have a true position. You didn't have a true, I would say, identity out there, but they needed you on the floor because your skill set is able to take up voids for the players on the floor. They can have you play the center position and guard numerous positions. So when he came here, you saw him being able to fit with a Zion, fit with anybody that was on the floor because he was able to space the floor. He can play in the dunker. He can play point. So he's a player that you can look in today's NBA that is one of those things that's a hybrid. You can put him on the floor. He's going to be out there spacing the wing. He's going to be in the pick and rolls, or he can be the one initiating the offense. And you need players like that, and that's something that you wanted to have. And you saw him slowly start to develop that and be comfortable playing his position when when the game started piling up.
From the outside looking in, it's kind of difficult to fathom the idea of he played in Toronto the first few months of the season, and then all of a sudden he gets traded here and has to kind of jump. He had a little bit of time, I think, before he started playing games here, but it wasn't long. I mean, this is something that you went through, though, in terms of being traded midseason. Can you kind of give us a picture of some of the reasons why, when you get midstream, middle of the season, you get traded to another team, of some of the challenges that you have to deal with and some of the things that you're going to have to figure out without much practice time, without much prep?
Yeah, it's tough because for him, he's playing numerous positions. He's playing the point guard. He's maybe playing, I would say, not say the post, but he's the one initiating the screening action on certain plays. So having an IQ for that and having him learn new plays on the fly and try to be in the right place at the right time, that's something that is unique, and you see like the chemistry trying to be built with him through this team. But yeah, being traded mid-season is tough because you pick up the different chemistry stuff the body language, the voice calls, anything that you hear from the coaches, your players, your teammates that you built throughout the first ladder of the season, then you get traded. Now you got to build that again. Now I have to learn it all over again on the fly because the games are coming day after day. So you see the IQ level of certain players be able to pick it up quicker, and some people not say struggle with it, but it's literally trying to get them to settle in. But it's one of the things that I was glad to see him do is really like, you know what, I'm just going to be me and go out there and just play. I'm going to use my defense to really catapult me and to getting like settled in, and he was able to do that towards like the latter games in the season.
I think it only happened to you like once or twice where you were traded mid-season in your career.
Yeah.
I mean, do you think does it help a little bit if you've been in the league longer? Maybe when you come to a new team, you're at least a little bit familiar with the personnel on that team from scouting against them, playing against them, as opposed to maybe your rookie year where you don't have as much familiarity.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, because you played against these guys, you've seen them, you had to guard them, you know the schemes of the coaches and the team, and also, you've been around the league and you know what the sets of people are trying to get out of, like a 77, a drag screen, a double screen. They call it different, and they may say it set a slip screen afterwards. So you've seen this play in numerous games and numerous teams. So you know the call. You might not know the call, but you know the action. Mm-hmm. So that helps when you played a couple years in the league.
You mentioned at the beginning the part about how he seemed to play better as he got more games under his belt here. He definitely struggled, for example, offensively at first. His shooting was rough the first part of his tenure here. But one of the things I'm doing with all of the guests that we bring in is I'm going to throw two numbers at you, and you can tell me which one you like better or which one you want to talk about.
Okay.
You can talk about both if you want as well. But the first number is for Bruce Brown is 7 of 13, and that is he shot 50% or better from the field in 7 of the final 13 games he played for New Orleans. Before that, in his first 10 games, he only did that once. Mm-hmm. So that's the first number. The second number is 40, which is the career playoff games that Brown has been in. Half of those were during Denver's 23 championship, the first and only title that the Nuggets have won. So which of those two is the most interesting to you from those two numbers?
I would go with the first one. That's 7 to 13. If you look at he had those struggles early on, and I think that's that trying to fit in. He wasn't being himself, and you look at his shots. On the second half of that, when you said the 7 to 13, he was playing in the pocket. His floater was going. He was attacking the rim, and he wasn't relying on just shooting the three. He was playing an in-between game. And I would take that Denver playoff series, those 40 games. If you look at his points and how he was scoring with Denver, he was playing the point guard. He was attacking the rim, and he was getting wide open shots or playing in that pocket. Mm-hmm. So for him to be able to get his mojo back towards the second half of our season, to have that 7 to 13, he was playing within himself, and that offense that slowly started to come along was just him being Bruce. It wasn't him trying to fit in anymore. So that's more of a vet for me to see that.
Yeah, he averaged 12 points a game in that postseason over the 20 games he played. He had 21 points in Game 4 of the NBA Finals. So it's like, if people weren't watching closely, I mean, this dude had some huge performances in that run, and he was a huge reason that the Nuggets ended up winning the title that year. He was not, just kind of a bit player that was playing a few minutes here or there. He was very crucial to that championship. Lastly, for me, we talked about earlier the challenge of being traded mid-season, and now going forward, I'm sure you experienced this in your career as well. So going into next season, Bruce Brown is a free agent. We're not going to speculate on that, but there's a new regime now. There's a new GM in place. I'm sure you went through this in your career as well. How do you respond to that as a player? Is there apprehension? Is there concern of, like, just for example, this GM drafted me or this GM traded for me, and now we have a new guy coming in that doesn't have a connection to me?
Right. It's not much you think about it, but it's something that you really don't, because your body of work that you have done is there, is proven. He's a proven player. He's been around. That's something for your agent to pick up on and reach out and see where you're going to go, where you're going to fall. Do you want to come back here and have those conversations with the GM and the organization? But I think for him, like I said, his body of work is there. He's a champion. He actually was a vital part of that championship. He's bounced around to certain teams, but his skill set and his importance to teams and his value is predicated on how he's able to impact the game throughout different ways. So I think he has a place on a lot of teams just because of how the NBA is now. And so that's his agent. And like I said, his body of work is proven.
Mr. Wes Johnson, as always, appreciate the time. And let's see what takes place here. Big Three coming up soon?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, we talked about it during the Joe Dumars presser, Jim. I don't know if he needs, somebody to... in boxing, it's a sparring partner. If you work out with somebody to get you ready for a basketball tournament season. Same thing?
Same thing.
I don't know if we would provide any assistance for you. Maybe 2-on-1.
I don't think you would pick us, Wes. I hate to say it, but...
Well, I'm just saying, you pick him up at the top of the key, and then I'll...
No, I thought you were going to say, you pick him up and bring him to the practice facility. I think that's about all I'm qualified to do. Yeah.
There. When does that start, my man?
It starts June 14th.
Are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I'm excited about it. I get to compete, so yeah, I'm excited.
Are you on Corey Brewer's team, or are you going to compete against Corey Brewer?
Compete against him.
Against him?
Yes. That was by choice. He was saying he wanted me to play with him, but I was like, no, I don't want to join. Yeah, I want to play against you.
Okay. He won the title last year, huh?
I know, that's why I want to play.
Does he remind y'all of it? Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We won. I know. I heard.
That was last year.
It was.
That was last year.
Do they have him mic'd up in the Big Three? Because
they need to.
They definitely do.
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you for your time, Wes.
No, appreciate it.
Our thanks to Wes for stopping by there. As always, a pleasure. I am very interested in that. We were talking at lunch, I think, this week with a couple of our colleagues. There's a handful, almost a half dozen Pelicans, either players or coaches or broadcasters, not players, but former players, that are going to be involved in this summer's Big Three, aren't there?
Yeah, Corey Brewer has been heavily involved in it. I'm trying to remember
Greg
who else.
Monroe's another.
Greg Monroe,
Yep.
That's right. Is Jody Meeks playing it? I'm not sure. We'll have to get on that and find out.
Coach or something, or it might be playing. Yeah, but the point is there's a handful of Pels representatives that we'll be following and keeping an eye on. So good luck to Wes, who clearly still looks like he can go out there and play for sure. So one of the things I want to get into before we wrap up here is Western Conference Wednesday, right?
Yeah, we're doing some bonus editions. I wasn't really planning on continuing this through the playoffs, but why not? What the heck? We enjoyed it during the season.
Normally, when I look at what the Golden State Warriors can do, as I said, we've talked about this before. Steph Curry's one of those players you love to watch. As I've watched the series with the Rockets, though, shockingly, Draymond Green has been involved in some
center of attention. Yes, right in the middle.
I wouldn't say altercations, just
incidents,
stoppages of play to review certain things, including a body check in the last game. I don't know, man. That's just what comes with it. Isn't it?
It's interesting. We heard that Houston's broadcast was very upset during the game 4, where he had I forget at this point. I forget the order of it. It was like he had a flagrant foul, and then he had a technical. And part of how they administered that was so if you get 2 technicals, you get thrown out of the game. If you get 2 flagrants, you get thrown out of the game. So if you give him 1 of each, he gets to stay in the game. And but the reason I bring up Houston's broadcast is I feel like at this point we could have like a support group for Western Conference teams that are dealing with the Draymond problem, which is, I remember back when I saw the game the other night against the Rockets that the Warriors played. It reminded me in March 23 there was a game where Draymond and Herb Jones, of all people, got into a couple scraps where Draymond accidentally kicked him in the head a couple times, stomped on him, rolled over him.
Well, momentum.
Yeah,
just laws of physics.
It's amazing that a world-class athlete has such difficulty controlling his limbs the way
Sir Isaac Newton thought of Draymond Green when he came up with all of those theories.
Right, momentum and gravity, all that different stuff.
One force, opposite force.
Yeah, exactly. but yeah, I just feel like it's just frustrating because it's funny too, because I remember back from that March 2023 game that I referenced where he kicked Herb. He had a couple other incidents, and I remember during the game after his 3rd or 4th incident, I tweeted, "There's no way Draymond Green can stay in the game." Guess what, Gus? I was wrong. Mm-hmm. He stayed in the game, and in the game the other night too, Game 4 against the Rockets, I remember Reggie Miller at one point said after his first technical, he's like, "All right, Draymond, you got to be careful now. You got to watch. Guess what? No, he doesn't. He's got a invincible force field around him. I heard somebody, I forget who said this. I wish I could remember who said it. Said that after he gets a technical, it might have been Zach Lowe. Said after he gets a technical foul, he becomes like a superhero that is invincible and has like these powers that he can deflect anything from him. So it was funny. I saw a lot of people tweeting in response to Reggie Miller saying that on the broadcast too. People were like, no, Reggie, you don't understand. You got it exactly wrong. Once he gets his technical, he can do whatever he wants. It's not that he has to be careful. It's that he doesn't have to be careful at all, because it feels like the lengths that he has to go to get thrown out of a game is unbelievable. By no means am I the only person saying this too. It's not like you're going to be like, oh, Jim, what are you talking about? It's like everyone has said this a million times, that they can't believe some of the stuff that he does. It's like there's a different enforcement of him than there are other players. It's crazy.
What's crazy to me too is, I'm trying to think of some other players that have had instances where the official and this player just don't get along, or you almost chuckle, oh, this official's refereeing, like Chris Paul and
Scott Foster.
I was going to go
kind
into
of
that.
a famous duel back and forth.
And I can get like that element of it because they're jawing at one another.
Sometimes things get personal
officials
too.
don't want that. Like,
they're human beings.
They do not want to be shown up.
Right.
They don't want to be yelled at. They don't want to be cussed at.
They don't want to become the story either.
The league tells you, please don't. Everything I just said, though, is exactly what he does to them.
Right. He puts them in a terrible position where it's like they don't want to throw him out because they don't want to affect the game and they don't want to become part of the story on like all of the news shows and the highlights.
Do you think it's because of that finals game when they threw him out against the Cavs?
It's possible.
Because I think the Warriors win that series.
Yeah. Right? I mean, that's possible that's part of it, but it's just hard to fathom. It just feels like the league is getting bullied by him and the referees are getting bullied by him constantly. It's like there's games where he does 6 or 7 things that would get any other player kicked out on the second time that they did something like that of a game. So I don't understand it.
No doubt. Western Conference Wednesday, the Draymond Green edition.
Also we could real briefly talk about Game 5 Lakers Timberwolves. I mean, I'm so interested to see tonight.
You mean excited?
What happens with that?
So excited.
Yeah. I mean, depending on we'll see if I'm excited at 11:30 p.m. or so.
Right.
But yeah.
Not that we can bet, right? I mean, we're not allowed to do that over here, but I would put your money, my money, Graf's money, JD's money, Aaron's money, my kids' college tuition.
I'm scared of where you're going with this.
There is no way LeBron will be scoreless in the fourth quarter.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Okay.
Would you agree with me on that?
Yeah.
How surprising was that? Look, that was one of the big storylines. No substitutions in the fourth quarter, all starters, and LeBron did not score.
Yeah, that was crazy. I mean, he did make some good defensive plays. He had some athletic blocks, but it's like at a certain point, I don't know how much you can ask 5 guys to play the entire half to still have the same energy at the end of those 24 minutes as they did at the beginning. So, I mean, that's another thing that'll be interesting to watch tonight too. How does JJ Redick handle his substitutions and his rotations, especially if they get down? Where it's like Game 4 he treated as though we can't lose this game. I mean, tonight you literally can't lose this game or your season's over.
No doubt about it. That is Jim Eichenhofer, Pelicans.com. Again, if you miss any of our player profiles, including this one, Wes Johnson on Bruce Brown, go to Pelicans.com. Jim has an accompanying written piece to go with these as well. As always, we thank you for tuning us in. For Jim, I'm Gus. Thank you. You've been listening to the Pelicans Podcast.
Thanks for listening to the New Orleans Pelicans Podcast. Join us 3 times per week on Pelicans.com, the Pelicans mobile app, the iHeartRadio app, or where you get your podcasts. And be sure to give Jim and Gus a follow on X at Jim_Eichenhofer and GCat_17. We'll see you next time, right here on the New Orleans Pelicans Podcast.